servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Steve Ramona. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. Steve Ramona. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. Every episode is an invitation, a reminder that business and life isn't just about profit, it's about purpose. It's about showing up with a servant's heart in every deal and every decision, every day to make a powerful impact on others. Today's guest is going to light you up. You'll be motivated, you'll be challenged, and most importantly, you're going to walk away with tools that inspire action both in your life and the lives of others. Audience, here's your homework. How will you serve yourself and others today? Doesn't have to be a big impact. Even a small act of kindness or courage can change the game. So lean in, take notes. Shout out to my two sponsors, A Mind for All Seasons. Your brain is your greatest competitive edge, and it deserves to perform like one. Want to think faster, remember more, and stay focused longer? Just text the word OPTIMIZE to 72000. Optimize to 72000 and get instant access to
Welcome
6 short
to Doing
business
Business with Servant's
each just
Heart.
3
I'm
or 5
your
minutes
host, Steve Ramona,
that reveals
every
simple
episode
strategies
is an invitation
to
to
unlock
remind you
people
that
business
business
and life
performance
isn't just about
because when your
profit,
brain is
it's
clear,
about purpose.
your business grows.
It's about showing up
An
with
epic
an
impact,
servant's
the
heart in every
storytelling
deal,
system
every
that helps your
decision,
message connect
every
and
day
convert.
to make a
It's
powerful
just 4
impact on
steps.
others.
Engage,
Today's
persuade,
guest is going to
inspire,
light you up,
close with
you'll be
clarity.
motivated,
I use it every day for all my
and most
messages.
importantly, you're going to walk away with tools
Try
that
it
inspire
free
action
at
both in your
Epic
life
Impact
and the lives of
AI
others.
with code Steve.
Audience, here's your
Change your
homework.
messages.
How will you serve
Change
yourself
your
and others
results.
today?
Excited to announce
big impact,
Doing
even
Business
small
with
act
Servant's
of
Heart
kindness or
podcast was
courage
named top
can
6
change the game
in small business
So lean
marketing.
in, take notes.
Thanks to all of
Shout out
you,
to my two sponsors,
my guest,
A Mind for All
audience.
Seasons.
You've
Your brain
impacted
is
so
your
many
greatest
people.
competitive
Let's continue
edge,
doing
and
that.
it deserves to perform like one. Want to think faster, remember more, and stay focused longer? Just text the word OPTIMIZE to 72000. Optimize to 72000 and get instant access to 6 short, powerful videos, each just 3 to 5 minutes, that reveal simple strategies to unlock peak mental performance. Because when your brain is clear, your business grows. And Epic Impact, the storytelling system that helps your message connect and convert, it's just 4 steps. Engage, persuade, inspire, close with clarity. I use it every day for all my messages. Try it free at epicimpact.ai with code Steve. Change your messages, change your results. Excited to announce Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast was named top 6 in small business marketing. Thank you all of you, my guest and my audience. You've impacted so many people. Let's continue doing that. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I'm so excited to have you here today because we were just talking before the show. The world's different, especially in HR and leadership. There's so much noise out there, and noise just doesn't hit it all the time. Can't just jump on YouTube to learn about leadership. I'm not saying you don't, because I've done that. Mm-hmm. You can learn from videos and stuff, but don't DIY leadership on YouTube or anybody else you get a social media ad for. I'll stop right there. I'm gonna get off my pedestal. Bring our guest on here. Mike, welcome to the show.
Steve, good to be here.
You've had a lot of experience. HR is your background. What does servant leadership mean to you? What does somebody need to get to that?
I think maybe in short, it kind of starts with the mindset. What are you there for? You mentioned I come out of a corporate HR background, and I found myself need to remind myself and my team, we're here to support the business. And in particular, we're here to support the employees who are helping the business. And so it's don't lose sight of what our role is. It is to serve, not necessarily to go around and saying what you can't do.
Yeah, that's great. HR, what's a tip you'd give an HR department? First, but the second part is the employee going in to see the HR, because I think there's ways to handle it that make it much better communication.
Mm. I think the first thing I would suggest to anybody who's in HR or leading HR, first and foremost, understand the business or organization that you are supporting. Understand what those drivers are, because if you do, you're in a better position to connect with key individuals because they see that you did your homework. You're understanding things from their perspective. If I was to flip that, and that is for those going into HR oftentimes gets a bad rap, and maybe deservedly so. And that is HR kind of prides itself as being the corporate police department. And though there is a compliance part of HR, I step back and kind of say, at the end of the day, you want to have an open door and you want to be seen as an advocate for employees. And I hope what I'm about to say is going to make sense. But what I loved about HR is you are sandwiched between leadership and the employees. You are not to be the person everything has to go through, but you have to learn that there are times you have to advocate for the company and there are times you have to advocate for employees. But make no doubt, if you have to choose, you're there to advocate for the employees. And if you earn the right at the table, these senior leaders, they know that that's what you're there for. They understand that you're not just being a thorn in their side. And so, that being said, what I loved was that straddling the two worlds. I love, I shouldn't say I love it, but this is what I experienced. You have to figure out how to live in the gray because things are not black and white. And HR kind of gave me that there's not ever a totally correct answer.
Yeah, I love living the gray. That could
Mm-hmm.
go a lot of industries. We won't do that. Go down a black hole. We don't want to do that. So it's interesting. You know, your HR corporate probably did very well, did some of your background. You did really well. But now Mike says, I'm going to be an executive coach. I'm going to help coach executives with leadership. How'd you make that bridge?
When I decided I wanted to kind of hang out my own shingle and start a business, I knew as an HR generalist, that's what we call ourselves when we have to have responsibility for everything. But I had expertise, still do, in compensation and benefits, employee relations, safety, employment. The list goes on and on. But when I stepped back then and now, and I looked at what area has had the most impact on an organization's success, it's how does the organization go about identifying who their future leaders are and how do you prepare them for that leadership? So what kind of led me, though my business, Bench Builders, we do provide strategic HR consulting because that's very much needed. But our real bread and butter, what we are known for, is leadership development, and specifically, it's the line supervisors that we try to address. So leadership development, time and time again, is not done well by companies. So, from a business standpoint, if we could figure out a way to do it well, then I've got a business model that would be sustained. That is how I started in Bench Builders. The coaching came later. The coaching came from clients pulling me aside and saying something like, Mike, you come in here, once a month and you lead these classes. Matter of fact, you got two classes going on right now, but you seem to know us. You seem to really understand what our challenges are. And I think you probably know what I'm trying to do as a key leader. Do you think you would be willing to work one on one with me because you get us? I think you would get me. And that was my first coaching request.
Organic, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool. And that's kind of what we start some business and people ask, hey, why don't you help me with this? And now you go full-fledged business. And I love the value you bring because it sounds like you live the world. So
Mm.
when Steve Ramona goes, hey, Mike, this and this happened, you go, oh, I remember back in the day. I don't know if you answer it that way, but in your mind, you go, oh, I saw that happen. That's huge value, isn't it?
It is at the same time, if I lead with that, then it implies that I already know the answers. And I probably don't know the answers, but I may have an idea where it likely would be heading.
Yeah, yeah, that's huge because it saves time.
Hmm.
Everybody wants to be a better leader tomorrow, yesterday, and they
Hmm.
know it's got to be tomorrow, which I love. Love that you do. Is there one question you ask every CEO, or is
I don't
it?
know if there's one question. I don't know if it's funny, Steve. I'm not very formulaic,
Okay.
and so what I would say to you is, what brings me in front of a coaching client oftentimes varies widely, but if they seek me out from a coaching standpoint, there's a reason. And I want to really understand not just the surface reason, but what really is behind the ask. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, but more often than not, they describe something that is relatively superficial. But if we can solve that quickly, then they're willing to say, you know what? I can trust this guy. I'm willing to be a little bit more vulnerable. And if I do my job right as a coach, I help them go places that they have been reluctant to go because it's holding them back.
Well, and that's using a sports analogy. That's why coaches in sports, the ones are really good, because that player comes back, goes, "Hey, I made that move that you taught me, and I scored 3 touchdowns this week," or whatever the ROI was from it. If they
Hmm.
don't get anything from it, they're not going to go back to you. It's just, we're human. That's just how it works. What, I'm going to ask this question, and I probably shouldn't. You work with Fortune 500. Is there a difference from that startup business and that executive CEO at a startup to somebody who's doing billions of dollars and millions of dollars a year?
In my experience, yes. Um, I, Steve, you were kind to say what you said. I got to understand Fortune 500, but I didn't start there. I started with small companies that kept getting bigger. And even more unique, I went to work for family owned, small, fast growing companies. And through organic growth, through acquisitions, lo and behold, they became Fortune 500. And it's a different animal. And so, what I would say is that what brought me into the organization originally was that founder, that entrepreneur, and it's scrappy. And as the organizations get bigger, they get a little bit fatter and they get a lot more fatter, and decision making tends to slow down. Though I was able to navigate Fortune 500 very well, I understood it. I choose to work with smaller organizations. I choose to work with the decision makers, the founders, the key leaders, because one, it moves much faster. They don't have time for much more than let's figure it out, get a solution, and move on to the next. So if I could choose, I leverage what best practices look like in Fortune 500, but Fortune 500 practices do not work in small to mid-sized, fast-growing organizations. It's
Yeah.
it's too burdensome.
That's a big value again, Mike, because you lived it.
Hmm.
And I come to you and go, "Hey, I've got a 100 employee, 1 year old company. How do I scale?
Mm.
How to become a better leader? So when I get 1,000 employees, 10,000, you're right. And that's why I asked the question. You read my mind, which I love because they are
Well,
different animals.
Steve, you just mentioned the 100 employee company. For the outside looking in, they think that's a small business, but that represents most organizations are smaller than that. But what I do find when an organization gets to about 100 employees, they have to do things differently than they've done things in the past. It just won't work otherwise. And so the question is, what does he have to do that won't slow down growth? What do you have to do that will still maintain kind of that hunger, that entrepreneurial hunger? And it's not formulaic. Each company has to do it differently, but it really, in most cases, centers around culture. What is the culture you have that you want to maintain? Or what is the culture you want to do? And how can we, through our people, the people we select, the people we promote, the people we train, how can we reinforce that culture?
I want to work for you right now.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
so fired up. No, this is, and it's much different than this. I mean, it's much more complex.
Hmm.
You've made it simple because that's a great foundation for any company, especially a company that's struggling. Go back to that foundation. Leadership, the one thing that people I think fail a lot on, this is my opinion, is conflict. It's going to happen in business. It's part of the DNA. How can you give tips to the audience about conflict to handle that?
Well, conflict is inevitable. It's in everywhere you turn, if I'm understanding your question
Yep.
correctly. It's very interesting. I mentioned the word culture a moment ago. I have worked in organizations by which conflict was somewhat encouraged. It was testy. We were kind of duking it out, and you had to be able to do that, not take it personally, and move on. I have advised, I have consulted with companies where the founder avoided conflict. And when you sit down one on one with this founder and they say, look how happy we all are, I would sit there and smile. But what I realize is he's he's missing a point. There is conflict. It's it's appearing someplace else. And because it's oftentimes not addressed soon enough, what could be an easy fix becomes much more complex. So most of the experience I have with conflict is you get two people together, there's going to be conflict. And you have to figure out a way to work through it because it's inevitable.
You gave a great answer. I've asked that question a few times. I love that answer because you're embracing it from what I'm hearing from you. It's there. Embrace it, figure it out, and let's move forward and grow the company. Let's not stay in the trenches and fighting this over this conflict. Because then a lot of times just really not trivial, but not as big as they make it.
All too often. And you just
Yeah.
think about it too, you just look at organizations, the way organizations are actually kind of configured. You're always going to have conflict between manufacturing and maintenance. Manufacturing says if you'd keep my machines better maintained, we can get more production out of there. The conflict between quality control and production. I look at the conflict between sales and marketing. If you just step back and look at, there's a baked in natural conflict that's intended. You want that tension if you're really going to really succeed as an organization. But what more oftentimes happens, it becomes a power play. The manager who can gain the upper hand is the one who has the most influence. And that may or may not be the right way to run a business.
That's great. Well, that leads to the word you used before the show, and you mentioned a couple times listening.
Mm-hmm.
A great leader has to listen. I want you to talk about that because I think it really can educate the audience.
I have learned that I am a good listener because the people tell me I'm a good listener. And what's interesting about that is that my natural tendency is I'm highly distracted. And if I can focus on who I'm in front of and tune out the distractions, what I'm listening for is not so much what gets said, but what doesn't get said. And what I'm finding is I have to resist the temptation to begin formulating my next question or my next statement before they finish even answering that last question. And so I hope this is answering your question, but as
Yes.
I step back and look at listening in a coaching setting, I want my coaching client to do most of the talking. And the questions that I want to ask are not to try to show off how smart I am. What I'm trying to do is ask questions that they stop and they kind of go, wow, I never thought about that. Now, that's not the goal. The goal is they're seeing something with a fresh perspective that they have not seen before. Now, what do they want to do about it? So if I do my job right and I earn their trust, listening means that I'm picking up on things that they might not even be aware of. And I have to be bold enough to ask hard questions when it's appropriate.
It's perfect. I call it the 30,000-foot view. We hear that
Mm-hmm.
all the time. But you're up here looking at Joe Smith Company, listening. You know what? It sounds like you guys have too many meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about instead of 20 meetings a day, maybe doing 5, whatever that situation is, because an audience, he just gave you $1 million tip. If you listen to your clients, your prospects, everybody that you're talking to, you're going to learn more about them and great things come from that. It may not even be a sale. It may be just somebody that just wants to, help you, work with you, whatever. And that's why I love podcasting. I want to jump into that because you have to listen for as a podcast. I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn to shut up, to be honest, and let the guests. And you're a great podcaster because I did listen to one of your shows. Tell me what you love about podcasting in your show.
The name of the podcast is Get Unstuck and On Target. That title is very, very broad. I thought when I began inviting guests on that what they would be sharing at some point, there's only one question that they can anticipate, and it goes something like this. Can you share an example where you or your organization or your client got stuck, and what did it take to get unstuck? And I expected early on that the vast majority of the guests would give me company examples or client examples. Probably the biggest surprise is the willingness to share personal experience because we all get stuck. To say we don't is a lie. But probably the number one reason why I do what I do from a podcast standpoint is I meet fascinating people. Steve, I'm meeting you. We would not cross paths otherwise, but in preparing a podcast, I hopefully do my homework well enough by which I have a sense. I've already pre-screened the candidate. We've talked. I know what is it they want to do. And then my job, if I understand it correctly, is find the interface between what is the message they want to get out and what do I believe our listeners yearn for. And if I can ask questions so it serves their purpose as well as I'm mindful of listeners, I love that from a challenging standpoint. And so I guess what I would throw out to you, the biggest reason that I do what I do from a podcasting standpoint is I've met fascinating people. I learn from each and every guest, and the relationship goes surprisingly deep fast. And so all that to say is it's just you and me looking into a camera, but we will wrap up this episode and I'll have some sense of who Steve is. And what really has been very gratifying is be able to maintain those relationships. And this is a caffeinated response. I had a big glass of tea up before we started this recording. But what I started about 9 months ago is I began inviting past guests to come together once a month in a mastermind. And we've been doing this for about 9 months. Every month we feature a past guest. But what it does is it brings past guests together that would not know each other otherwise. And so we're building a community. And the only way you can get into the community is to appear on the podcast. And I didn't know where that will go. But now I'm finding if I skip a month because of the holidays, people say I miss it. And that's very gratifying that people are coming together in meaningful ways far beyond their appearance on the podcast, 2 years ago.
What a way to end the show with a servant's heart. Because I talk about bringing value to podcast guests as much as you can. Promote them, of course. Everybody does that, but you go to the next level like I do. I do multiple things for my podcast guests like that. And if you're a host out there, he just gave you an idea that could blow up your podcast because people will remember it. They're going to enjoy it. You brought them value. They're going to bring you guests on and on and on. It's just snowball effect. And I may borrow it as well. I'm not going to say steal. I may borrow it as well because that's really darn cool that you're doing that. I appreciate you. So let's end with an improv. I like to end with a fun question. So I'm going to reserve a table at a restaurant. You're choosing. We're going to sit together. Who are the three people you're going to invite that have influenced your life, whether dead or alive? But more importantly, what kind of food are we going to order for the table? Not we, you, actually.
Okay. I would pick people who I have been in my life who might not be in my life now. The first person that comes immediately to mind was my father-in-law, someone who, when I started dating his daughter, had every reason to not like me, not support me, and right out the bat, he took me under his wing and he treated me like a son from day one. I would want him at the table because he's a great conversationalist. I would have um, probably one of my early mentors, a woman, invite her to it. She was the kind of woman who spoke plainly. You knew exactly where she stood. And if I got a little bit haughty, she put me in my place pretty quickly, but she did so in a loving way. I would invite her to it. And then I guess maybe who would the third person be? I think the third person would be someone who would complement those two. And I don't know if that's going to make sense, and I hope it doesn't sound like a cop out. But the food
That's
would
fine.
be if we have to use forks and knives, fine. But it's going to be very, very casual. It's intended to spark conversation. People can lean in. I could care less about manners and napkins and which fork you use. But the assumption is enjoy each other's company, enjoy the food, and Steve, based on this conversation, you could be that third person because you're kind of an unknown to me. But every time I hear a new question from you, I want to know more about Steve. So it might be someone who I'm new to, who I'd like to know better.
Beautiful table. It's I'd be honored to be there. And yeah, I like hand foods. Hand foods are good when you're talking. When you get that big steak and you kind of focus on the steak, you don't want to do that here. I love that. So God bless you, Mike. You take coaching to a level that I've not seen many times because you care and you serve. I know people listening going to want to connect with you. How can they find you and connect with you?
Probably the easiest. My name's Mike O'Neill on LinkedIn. I have enjoyed getting to know people first and foremost through LinkedIn. The name of my business is Bench Builders, so it's bench-builders.com. And if there's interest in listening to a podcast episode, just go to your browser and type in unstuck.show. And after listening, if you think you'd be a good guest, reach out and we'll talk.
I'm going to do that right after the show. I'm going to subscribe. Thank you again, Mike, because I love and when you said that question, right away popped up a personal story of my dad and my cousin helping me close a company I didn't want to close. I'm like, at 6, 7 years, I got 2 employees. I closed. Steve, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. And they were absolutely right. My dad, Ralph, and my cousin, Jeff Ramona, shout out to both of you. My dad's not around anymore, but he's in heaven. But thank you, because that's right away, that's what I thought. So you're absolutely right. I kind of followed the same mantra. Thanks again, Mike, and an audience. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, whether it's mine or Mike's or whoever's. And here's why. This was a gift today. If you're listening to this and you share this link with somebody and they're like, God, Mike opened up some things in me. He impacted me. That's a gift. And we're December 1st, started, the Christmas holiday. We're giving gifts. Why not do this year round? So when you subscribe, you get a podcast that resonates with you, share them out. Yeah, we love our subscribers. I'm not going to speak for Mike, but we do. But more importantly, it's the impact. If one person's impacted by this show, me and Mike are so happy.
Yeah.
We'd love for 1,000, but it's all about just helping people and serving them. With that being said, me and Mike want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.